There's an illegal immigrant surge taking place, and we seem to be the epicenter again. Not getting much coverage, so let's do our job now. Joining us on 710 KURV, Chris Cabrera is with the local Border Patrol Union, and he and all his gang on the front lines witnessing this day to day. Chris, welcome back to the show. Let me go to the LA Times and an article that's been making the rounds in cyberspace. Let me read directly from the article. A spokesperson from Homeland Security making reference, reacting to questions about the most recent surge, saying that they're closely monitoring the situation, typical speak for the bureaucrat, but not entirely inconsistent, her words, not entirely inconsistent with historical trends for these months. Would you agree with that assessment, Chris?
Sergio, that's the line that stuck out to me when I read the article, and I don't know what trend she's looking at or what's not inconsistent to her, but what we're seeing in these months is by far an anomaly. We don't see these type of numbers in the fall or even the summer, with the exception of last year, and I think she's out of her mind.
Okay. What are you seeing right now? Give me some numbers that you're dealing with, for this past weekend, if you have that, or maybe the weekends before that. What are you seeing?
Well, I know I believe it was, Wednesday, I believe we had well over 500 just in one station, and probably 80% of them were women and children.
Wow.
We're getting hammered on a daily basis, and it's always been we're fleeing violence, but for the most part, people are just saying, we know you're not going to hold us, we know you're going to let us go. That's why we're coming.
Okay, and is this a late surge? Is this comparable to the summer surge of last year? It just happens to be taking place in the fall this year?
Yeah, most definitely. We're not up to last year's numbers, but we're getting pretty darn close. And it's by far, by no means is it a drop. I mean, like I said, we're not where we were last year, but compared to any other year, we're way up. Okay,
let me give you some of the other numbers that were reported in the LA Times, and let me read directly from the article. It says the Valley has been the epicenter of both earlier and the latest influx. 2014, the region saw a 77% more unoccupied kids and more than 4 times as many families caught crossing compared to the previous year. The number of families who crossed this September, over 5,200, more than twice the number seen in September of the previous reporting period. Is that number correct?
It seems to be correct. We're getting hit with a lot of women and children, and the sad thing is we're seeing a lot of children unaccompanied. When you see a 7-year-old take care of her 4-year-old sister, it's terrible.
Okay. Now, I thought Mexico was supposed to crack down on some of these traffickers and these smugglers and these coyotes.
Well, Mexico, I guess the dollar rules over there, and wherever the dollar goes, that's what they're going to crack down on.
Are these kids crossing the entire country of Mexico on their own, or are they being brought to the border and then told, okay, kid, cross right here, you can swim right here, and then they'll get you at the Border Patrol station and release you?
Yeah, they're usually being bussed up through Guatemala, and they're taken on a bus through the country, or they're left in care of a smuggler the entire way.
Joining us on 710 KURV to talk about the most recent surge that they're seeing on the border, Border Patrol Union representative is Chris Cabrera.
Yeah, Chris, Tim Sullivan here. Man, we've been talking to you so often lately. I feel I can invite you to dinner one of these days. So, the Obama administration has been putting a lot of these folks in detention. He's been deporting a lot of these folks. He's been sending the message since this last surge occurred last year, stating that, we will detain you, sending these messages hopefully as a disincentive for the Central Americans to come across. Mexican authorities have been working to crack down on their southern border. They have hired authorities to work to keep migrants off of that freight train that we've all heard about that travels north. And the numbers of migrants had been decreasing. And why are they increasing now?
Well, Tim, I think a lot of it has to deal with the political climate and what's in the news. when we have all this talk of immigration reform, a de facto amnesty, and there being us trying to close the borders, people get more concerned and realize that they need to get here before things change. One thing you have to understand with the detention is people do get detained for a short period of time, and then they get released into the country. So are they being detained? Yes. But are they being released into the country? Yes, they are as well. They're not necessarily getting deported. Very few get deported. Most of the children that come here unaccompanied get detained until we can find their family in the United States, and then we release them to that family.
Now, you alluded to this in a question Serge asked just a moment ago, that this story indicates that the smugglers apparently are getting to Mexican officials with bribes and payoffs. Is that, apparently you're hearing that too?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. And, the other issue is Mexico says they're deporting folks. Well, the issue with deportations in Mexico is much different than how we do it. We, as a country, repatriate them to their home country. What Mexico does is they give them a notice to leave the country, and they have 15 days to leave Mexico and self-deport. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going back to their home country. 9 times out of 10, they're coming to our country.
Do you have enough space at the new holding facilities to hold more of these women and kids that are coming in on their own?
We at the Ursula facility, we do have a lot of space. Unfortunately, it is designed as temporary. It's not long term. And then the other issue we're running into with that is manpower issue. We don't have the manpower to adequately.
Now, why are they being held, Chris? Are they being held for deportation and processing, or are they being held for whatever reason and then being let go?
They're being held for placement. We're looking for somewhere to hold them in the short term.
So that we can traffic them over to other markets. The other markets can absorb these kids and these families.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Who is in charge? Who's tip of the spear? Is it still Health and Human Services?
Yeah, Health and Human Services is out there. They have a lot of people and volunteers doing a great job. Unfortunately, we're lagging behind. We're not able to keep up with the surge that's coming in.
And there, you said manpower. What issues are you facing as far as manpower in caring for these folks, processing these folks right now?
Yeah, Border Patrol wise, we have to have somebody to process them, to do the paperwork, to take care of them, to see what it is they need, to keep track of them, and we just don't have enough manpower to keep up with them.
As you're holding them in the Border Patrol stations, you don't have enough manpower to do the paperwork for all these hundreds of folks that are there right now.
Exactly,
okay.
And you have for Ursula, you have 500 people in there. You have to have enough agents to make sure that everything's taken care of in that facility.
Fix the problem in 10 seconds. Go.
Our commissioner needs to decide if he wants to be a politician or if he wants to be the commissioner. And once he decides which one he wants to do, he needs to put his nose to the grindstone.
Well, Chris, that position is one and the same.
All right. If Chris has said that before, I think Chris's frustration is that they need to take action. They need to do something. And from his perspective, I've heard it is deporting now. Chris, thank you much for joining us on 710 KURV.